There are some famous open world RPGs on the Playstore like Genshin Impact or Wuthering Waves for example, but all of them follow the same formula, a formula that incredibly worked really well. However, today if you're looking for a different open world RPG, something well hidden and underrated, it's going to be very hard to find. But luckily you clicked on this video. Today we're talking about the top 15 underrated open world RPGs on the Playstore. Let's start with this pixel style game that mixes a lot of Pokemon with Minecraft, and its name is CHRONOMON Monster Farm. You can capture, train and evolve creatures called CHRONOMON. There are over 100 different monsters, each with their own skill trees and hundreds of combat techniques. But it's not just about fighting, you also need to take care of your land. You can plant more than 50 types of crops, go fishing and cook meals. The big difference here is that your monsters can actually help with farm tasks, automating many of the processes. The game chose to do something similar to Palworld, but with Pokemon style graphics, keeping the same core essence of both games while still feeling very unique. Even though this is a solo project by a single developer, the creator has already confirmed that a multiplayer version is in development, allowing you to battle and play with friends. On top of that, the game also features customization options inspired by Stardew Valley. A lot of people don't even know this game exists on the Play Store, let alone that it's open world. Now let's talk about Blossom Tales 2. Just like in the first game, the story is told by a grandfather to his two grandchildren, Lily and Chris, around a campfire. This time the story takes place 100 years after the original. In a moment of anger, the protagonist Lily wishes that her brother Chris would disappear, and that wish actually comes true. During the narration, the children sometimes interrupt the grandfather, and you're able to make choices that slightly change the enemies or situations that appear on screen. The game is heavily inspired by classic The Legend of Zelda titles, featuring lots of puzzles and creative use of your abilities. The map is vast, including haunted forests, pirate coasts and charming villages. It's the perfect game for anyone looking for a nostalgic experience but with modern quality of life features. Without a doubt, one of the best games released in 2025. Did you catch the release of this absolute GOAT? Now let's talk about Where Winds Meet. The game features a massive and visually stunning map inspired by classic Chinese landscapes and architecture. You play as a young wandering swordsman during a time of political collapse where you must forge your own path in what can become an MMORPG style experience. One of the most unique aspects of Where Winds Meet is the freedom to choose how you want to play. There's a solo mode focused purely on your character's story, or a multiplayer mode where the game fully transforms into an MMORPG. The combat is fluid and heavily focused on martial arts, but the real highlight is the lightness skills, allowing wall running, fast movement and extremely smooth combat that gives the game its own identity. On top of that, there are multiple weapon types and a very well-crafted parry system, making every fight feel dynamic and skill-based. Maybe one of the most underrated Diablo-style games of all time, those famous games inspired by Diablo. Now let's talk about UNDECEMBER. Unlike other RPGs where you choose to be a warrior or a mage right at the start, UNDECEMBER has no fixed classes. Your playstyle is defined entirely by what you equip, meaning you can be everything at once, you just need the right weapon. Skills and runes are the core of the game. You socket them into a hexagonal board and can link them with link runes to modify and enhance their effects. Even though the game is still relatively unknown on mobile, it features crossplay, and on PC, a lot of players actually enjoy it. We're currently at the very beginning of a new cycle. Season 10, New Age, is scheduled to start on January 8th, 2026, bringing a lot of new content to the game. In other words, this is not a dead game, despite what many people say. A very ambitious yet still quiet project both on the Play Store and on other platforms, but one that I truly believe has a lot of potential. Now let's talk about Tales of Bloomrise. It's often described as a mix between classic The Legend of Zelda and elements of Stardew Valley. During the day, you live out your village routine. This includes interacting with NPCs who have their own daily schedules, growing ingredients, fishing and forging your own equipment at the blacksmith. When courage calls, you explore dungeons that feature procedurally generated elements, meaning each run can offer different layouts and challenges. Combat happens in real time directly on the map, focusing on the use of different weapons such as swords and bows, along with abilities you unlock throughout your journey. You take on the role of Ray, a young adventurer living in the peaceful village of Bloomrise. What starts as a quiet life soon turns into a mission to protect the village. One of the big games of 2025 that ended up hidden in the shadows, I'm not exactly sure why, but I personally enjoyed it a lot. Now let's talk about REMEMENTO, White Shadow. The combat system is very similar to Honkai Star Rail. You build a team of 4 characters and need to manage skill points MP while breaking enemy resistances to stun them. Unlike many turn-based RPGs that are divided into narrow corridors, REMEMENTO offers vast maps where you can run, jump and explore freely between battles. The story takes place in a world built from the memory relics of ancient gods. You take on the role of a warden, leading a group of heroes to fight against a dark force that is erasing memories from existence. However, I do need to warn you, the developers have paused new content for the game with the goal of fully relaunching it in a completely different form. You might be able to find this game online or on TapTap because it's not very up to date on the Playstore. Now let's talk about Portal Knights. Portal Knights mixes the creative freedom of Minecraft with the progression and combat of an action RPG. Instead of a single infinite world, Portal Knights is divided into multiple floating islands, randomly generated. To move on to the next island, you need to find and rebuild portals using portal stones that you craft from fragments dropped by enemies. This is the game's biggest difference compared to Minecraft. You're not just a builder, you're a hero. The game features main classes, attributes, talent trees, and much more. One really cool thing is that even though the game is offline and paid, you can still play online with up to 4 friends. I honestly don't have much patience to play this game. I find it very complicated and difficult, but let's talk about it anyway. Neverwinter Nights. Even though it's an offline and paid game, it's still being supported. Its latest patch from November 2025 fixed many of the interface issues that existed at the mobile launch. When you buy the game, you're not getting just one experience, but hundreds of hours of content. The Android version includes the original campaign, along with DLCs and expansions like Hordes of the Underdark, for example. What truly keeps the game alive to this day is the fact that it's open to the community. You can download thousands of fan-made adventures, massively expanding the content. The game also supports multiplayer crossplay. That means you on Android can join a server with up to 200 players on PC or Xbox and take part in a massive online RPG experience. This game is described as a life simulator, but honestly it has so many systems that it's kind of incredible. Now let's talk about Moonstone Island. In Moonstone Island you play as an alchemist in training who must spend an entire year away from home on a floating island. The world is made up of 100 procedurally generated islands, each with different biomes, spirits and resources. Unlike Pokemon where you simply choose attacks from a list, here each spirit the game's monsters has its own deck of cards that you use during battles. On top of that, the game features many NPCs you can talk to who give you quests and personal problems to solve. There's also a very complete social system where you can even romance certain NPCs that the game allows, and it's an extremely relaxing and cozy game, but with tactical and challenging combat, mainly because of the card-based system. And when it comes to hardcore games, it's already very hard to find them on Android, and when we're talking about online games, it almost feels impossible, except for this one. Now let's talk about METRIA. The game comes from the same company known for hits like Toram Online and Eruna Online. Launched globally at the end of 2023, it established itself throughout 2024 and 2025 as an interesting alternative to the so-called Genshin likes for players looking for a more classic RPG-focused experience. The story takes place in a world divided into 9 countries. You begin your journey with Rio Kalkinos, a knight apprentice, alongside the mysterious Aru and the knight Lucas Nizam, exploring maps that blend linear progression with more open areas. The game takes a lot of inspiration from Genshin Impact, but makes everything more complex, exactly the way Asobimo likes to do. It uses a gacha system for characters and cards called tarots, which is surprisingly generous compared to many other games. This is an NFT game, and that already says a lot about it, but surprisingly they managed to build a genuinely interesting game within this system. Now let's talk about Legends of ELUMIA. Unlike many crypto games that are basically just click and earn, ELUMIA focuses on being a real game with 3D graphics made in Unity and real-time combat. The game takes place in the floating city of ELUMIA, which acts as the main social hub where players meet, trade, and prepare for adventures. The main focus is on dungeons. You can enter them solo on easy mode or in groups of up to 4 players on hard mode. The goal is to reach the end and escape with the loot. If you die inside, you lose everything you collected in that run. The game itself has only a few open world cities, working more like an online RPG with strong MMORPG elements. This super beautiful and cute game is also one of the big releases of 2025, just like many other so-called Genshin killers. Now let's talk about Infinity NIKKE. It's a cozy open world adventure and platformer. The focus isn't on killing bloody monsters, but on exploration, solving puzzles, and collecting outfits. The outfits aren't just cosmetic, they actually grant abilities. One outfit lets you float, another allows you to fish, shrink to enter small spaces, or even purify creatures. Combat is very light. You use magical abilities to purify enemies that resemble nightmares, but the real focus is on relaxed exploration alongside your cat companion, Momo. I'm not exactly sure what happened at the end of 2025 that caused many people to stop liking Infinity NIKKE and why it received so much criticism. Honestly, I'm a bit out of the loop on that. But one thing is undeniable, it's still a solid open world RPG. Before the release of Arknight's Endfield, there was a less popular launch and also a paid game. Now let's talk about ASTRIS. It was released in February 2024 as the studio's first major premium project, completely moving away from the microtransaction and gacha model that dominates mobile games. The biggest strength of ASTRIS is its combat system. It blends turn-based strategy with the intensity of real-time action. During the enemy's turn, you're not just watching, you need to press buttons at the right moment to parry or dodge incoming attacks. The story takes place on a planet in synchronous orbit, meaning the sun never sets on one side while the other is trapped in eternal darkness. You must investigate why this happens, and the story itself also explains why the game is fully open world. Epic Conquest X is the most recent release from the franchise, launched in October 2025, developed by the small but passionate team at Gakko Games, and now let's talk about it. The game takes place in a light post-apocalyptic setting. The world has technically ended but the atmosphere isn't depressing at all. Instead, it's filled with humor, funny dialogues, and that classic character banter, along with visual novel-style interactions. The biggest change compared to Epic Conquest 1 and 2 is the real-time party combat system, which works very similarly to Genshin Impact. You control multiple characters and need to switch between them constantly. Staying true to Gakko Games' tradition, the game puts a strong focus on player skill. You need to dodge, attack, and use abilities at the right timing. You'll also reunite with familiar faces like Leon, the swordsman, and Mavis, the mage, now featuring more detailed 3D models and improved skill animations. ELYSIA: The Astral Fall is a fantasy adventure RPG with idle elements, and even so, it features a beautiful open world. Let's talk about it. The game takes place in the world of Solaria, a universe once protected by the supreme deity Etheron, who transformed into the World Tree. You take on the role of a young warrior who must lead a team of heroes to fight against the forces of the Void. Even though it's an idle game and includes several idle-style mechanics, the main battles happen in real time. You control a team of up to 5 heroes and can manually activate their special abilities. The game allows you to freely walk through the maps, collecting chests, solving puzzles, and interacting with NPCs, avoiding the menu-only structure that many games in this genre rely on. For players who don't have much time, the game also features an offline reward system, just like a good idle game should. And that's it for today. These are some of the most underrated open world RPGs on the Play Store that truly deserve more attention. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.